So Owen Hall. All right. So welcome back to the second part of our breakdown of top 39. So people like when we do the video breakdown. So we appreciate the feedback we've gotten on these. And um, Owen Hall is on the IL coming in at number 11. And Chris and I were trying to figure that part out. And so based off the list, how'd that break down, Chris?
Yeah, I mean it's our list, so like we shouldn't be confused by like a couple guys moving up. Hall and Scheffelbein both moved up 6 spots, and they're always going to be associated with each other because they're both high school pitchers who were both taken in the second round last year. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of odd that they moved up because we've barely seen Hall, and then he went on the IL with a shoulder stress reaction, which is not the worst injury for a pitcher to have. It's something that he could theoretically come back from in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Like he could be pitch again this year. Um, but yeah, I mean, he wasn't performing terribly well, and neither has Scheffelbein in the Florida Complex League right now. But they do have a fair amount of upside, and this is the part of the system right now where it's just kind of a gray area. Like 11 through 20, I think we all had a lot of different rankings, but most of us had Holland Scheffelbein in the kind of 13 to 17 range, both of them, but a couple people had them higher in the top 10, or at least Hall in the top 10. And so that's how they ended up here at 11 and 12.
And this is where I think the subtle nuances of everybody's flavor, if you will, comes into play. Because, for example, Max Anderson, who's been Eastern League Player of the Month, and he's been hitting and doing a very good job this year, it's been standing out. Seems, I think for some people, 13 might be too low for him at this point.
Well, and it's interesting. I'm looking at our votes. He got a 12 and 11, 2 10s. So a lot of people right there, and then a 22 and a 21. So a couple of people still not necessarily buying into what he's doing this year. And that's the interesting thing is he hasn't changed a ton. What's changed is he's getting more hits and hitting for more power. But he's still a guy that walks at like a 5% clip. He doesn't strike out much, but he's never going to be a super patient, walk-oriented guy. And he's gotten better on defense, but he's never going to be an above-average defender, right? He might be able to get to average at second base, but the balls are falling. He's turned 8% of his ground balls into fly balls, and when you hit the ball as hard as he does, that's going to lead to success, and that's what he's done. He's batting like 340 this year. He had 2 more hits today. So guys just hitting, and as our buddy Uper likes to say, if you hit, they'll find a place for you to play. So yeah, he moved up. He moved up a ton. Like he is one of, I'm trying to think. He moved up 19 spots. So the second biggest jump on our list. And I think that's reflective of kind of like I said, this kind of gray area in the middle of the system, and also just his early season performance has been great. There's nothing you can complain about. It's just it's been good.
Yeah, you can. He's getting rewarded for his strong performance, and this is where too another part of the gray area is between Jake Miller, Rainer Castillo, and Joseph Montalvo, because Montalvo's been off to kind of a slow start in Erie, and the same can you say about Castillo too.
Yeah, and Jake Miller hasn't pitched much. He was fine when he pitched, but then he went on the IL with some back pain, and he hasn't been back. But yeah, Castillo and Montalvo have been two of the more, I guess, sort of disappointing pitchers in the system so far. In Montalvo's case, it's just he hasn't taken a step up with his stuff that we wanted to see. There's still a lot of there to like about the athleticism, the delivery. He throws strikes, but his fastball is still like 91, 93. And the changeup's still a little too firm. His slider's still good, but he just hasn't really improved from what we saw last year. And he's been challenged and struggled in Double-A. Castillo is the really curious one to me because he's throwing 2, 3, 4 miles an hour slower on all of his pitches this year for reasons that are hard to discern. Like he's still delivery looks this. I don't know. The delivery looks the same. He's still throwing a fair amount of strikes, although he's walking more now, and he's still getting a lot of ground balls. It's just the velocity's gone, and part of that, and that has turned his slider and from like a potential above average pitch to me, maybe even plus, to just kind of this slow, loopy 79 to 81 mile an hour breaking ball that is not great. And you haven't seen a ton of progress with the changeup either. It's still he doesn't throw it a ton. It's in the mid 80s. It doesn't show a lot of movement, but um, yeah, I mean, he was sitting 96 miles an hour last year with his four seamer and 95 with his sinker, and now it's rare to see him throw anything harder than 94. So I don't know what's going on there.
I mean, I think also the fact that he did pitch in the Arizona League, so maybe he didn't get much of a reprieve. Maybe it's a little bit of dead arm.
I don't know. I don't know. He may have. They may have had him, take it easy. Maybe he's. I don't know, just getting bigger and his arm is slowed down. It's tough to tell, but it's it. You don't want to make too big of a deal out of it. He's still throwing in the low 90s, but that was what was made him so intriguing last year. It was this guy throwing 95, 96, 97, pounding the zone with this sinker that nobody could lift, and it's not quite as fun when it's 92, 93, 94.
And not to mention, too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he become in the second half of the year? He became more of a strikeout pitcher too, because remember it was all sinker, sinker, sinker. Then then he started throwing that slider. It was, I think, a slider, like just
Yeah, no, yeah.
for strikeouts.
There were times where his slider was awesome. I talked about it before, but there's a clip that we put out of him in the Arizona Fall League where he threw 3 consecutive sliders and just made Trey Morgan, who's in the race system, made him look silly. And that's gone, and the velocity's down, and it's just a strange thing. Another reminder of the way that development could go is somebody seems like an arrow up, and then maybe they stagnate a little bit like Montalvo, or it goes down a little bit like Castillo. But he didn't. He actually, I think, moved up in our rankings, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He went down one spot. So that's Jake Miller went down one spot. Montalvo stayed, and that's just, I think, a result of Heffelbein and Hall jumping up.
Yeah, and that's and that's where like the gray area continues with the pitching wise, is that's why we are concerned for the lack of starter depth right now because of this portion right here. But then 17 to 23 continues to be. You know what though? Here's the thing about this part of the list right here. Number 17 is Isaac Pacheco, Josh Randall, Enrique Jimenez, Garrett Burhan, Jackson Strong, Brett Callahan, and Dylan Smith, who welcome back to the list, and also. He's in Detroit right now, probably going to pitch some point this week against the White Sox.
No.
And so, but here's where the reason why I thought this part of the list is intriguing. One, Jackson Strong also jumped up quite a bit there, too. Two, Garrett Burhan and Josh Randall. Garrett Burhan, I still think, is a guy who can either going to be in the bullpen someday or potentially like a back-end starter. I don't know what his role will be, but I think he's going to be on a big league roster. I will, if I'm wrong, so be it. But Dylan Smith, the year he's having in Erie and Toledo, it was when a couple weeks ago somebody mentioned when I was up in the press box, like, oh, what do you got on Dylan Smith? Well, I just did a report on him. We did our breakdown on him about late April after his first good month in Erie, and then he just kept dominating after that. And then he made a quick jump in Toledo. And they're like, you know what? Get him up here immediately. And it is such a night and day where Dylan Smith was last year. All the work, all that paid off, but he was both sides of both lefties and righties couldn't hit him at all.
Yeah, it's been a really fun, and this is one of the things we talk about occasionally. It's not one of our bigger talking points, but relievers can move very quickly when it looks like they figured it out. And that's what it looked like with him. Like, he was dominating early in the season in Erie. We talked about that, and the only issue there was a little bit of wildness. But yeah, they saw the arm that they wanted to see. They saw swing and miss stuff, and they brought him up. And he's now with the best, coaches in the org at this point who are going to help him refine. And yeah, in 2 outings in Toledo, he was fastballs mid 90s, right? Like it's still 94, 95, but he can ramp it up higher.
96. Yeah, he was touching up 96 a couple times. Here, 97.
Yeah, so yeah, he can ramp it up higher, but he also, his slider is his like kind of money pitch, but he'll also drop in the occasional curveball, and he's got a split change that he really kills the spin on it, and like it's a legitimate 4 pitch mix for a reliever with swing and miss stuff. So yeah, why wait? But he moves up. He was off our list. He moved all the way up to 23. from completely off the list, and now he's in the big leagues, but he hasn't pitched yet, so he's technically still qualifies for our list. But yeah, I mean, you can only go so far as a reliever. He's the highest ranked pure reliever we have on the list. You mentioned Burhan. We still think that he's got a chance to do something. He's been one of the better pitchers in the system in the last 2 years. They don't seem terribly interested in pushing him up to higher levels. So I don't know if they don't believe in him as much as we do. But we'll see. We'll see what happens here the next month or two. Pacheco is our biggest mover, right? The biggest mover, and that's part of that is he's been really good, and part of it again is this area of the system is just kind of like muddled, and so you want to reward these guys who are looking really strong. And with Pacheco, and we've already done a breakdown video of him. You should go check it out. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but for me, the big thing is that he used to just kind of sell out for home runs. You would see him at times swinging out of his shoes and dropping down to a knee. And now he just looks a lot more balanced and patient in the box. He's still swinging and missing a fair amount. And there's still strikeouts there, but he's not swinging at everything. He's taking a lot of walks, and he seems content to just hit hard line drives all over the place and let his natural plus raw power take over. He'll still turn on a home run and crush it, but he's not seeking out home runs in every single plate appearance now, and I think that's made a huge difference for him.
Yeah, especially that grand slam he hit, I think it was last week, where he put his hands on against Great Lakes down to the final strike, and he did a good job of adjusting that pitch that was coming inside and just cranked it. I mean, just absolutely leveled that pitch out to right field for the game-winning grand slam, and that was an example of growth right there. And that's why I felt confident to go, look at his numbers and go, okay, where is he going to play long term? Third base probably more likely, because the first base is probably Jose Basilio at some point. But again, I don't like, almost like you can almost use Pacheco, dare I say, as a trade base. I mean,
it's possible. Yeah, I mean, there's still the power upside there. Power, people love power. If he's shown more patience, and we talked about it's not the most versatile defensive profile, but if you can play third base and first base at an adequate level, that is pretty valuable to a team. And I mean, we'll see what happens. We expect a number of these guys to move up from West Michigan to Erie in the next month or so, right? Like by mid-July, probably at the latest. And it'll be interesting to see if Pacheco is one of them. If he goes along with Briseño and McGonigal and Clark, because he probably has earned it at this point. He's been in high A for a long time. So that's why he jumped up on our list, really. It's the performance and kind of getting his tools to work for him instead of hunting. Randall's an interesting one because his numbers have not been all that great this year. He's a sinker baller with a slider. And it's, to me, it's more about just the pure arm there. Like he sits 94, 95, will get up to 97 at times with the sink, and the slider and the cutter both show a lot of promise. And it's just a matter of like, they've got to refine that, but it's a nice, package of pitches to have that they can work with. And I think he and another pitcher that we'll talk about much later, when you're a ground ball specialist, you can kind of get you kind of get in trouble in the lower levels of the minors because the defense is not always great, right?
Yeah, that will get you in trouble for sure, and especially in a league like the Florida State League, where I think it's down this year. It's not as talently rich as it has been in the past. I mean, Bradenton's got some interesting. They got the Connor Griffin. Mm-hmm. There's a couple other teams. It just doesn't seem. You want to see him, how that's going to play up at high A, and that's where I get concerned with a little bit based off his numbers, and we'll see.
We touch on Enrique Jimenez as a guy that we kind of dropped into our list after the last time when we had a graduation because we felt like we kind of missed on him. And he's repeating in the Florida Complex League, and he's off to a really fast start down there. He's hit for a lot of power, which was the thing. Like, you just needed to see him get the ball in the air more. But so, yeah, right now he's still 19, 67 plate appearances. He's hitting 298 with a 246 isolated power. He's got, I'm looking I think he's got 3 or 4 home runs, but it's more RBIs than games played. He's just, he's impressed down there, and he's, seems like a guy who may move up to Lakeland relatively soon. And then we got Jackson Strong and Brett Callahan. I like that they're right next to each other because they're sort of similar. I think that Callahan's arm in raw power may be a little bit stronger tools than Strong, but I think Strong is probably as fast or faster. He's probably a better defender and probably a better hit tool overall. So, and we got a video on him too that you should check out. And then, we'd already talked about Smith. Callahan was fun. He had a couple really hot weeks for West Michigan, but he's been injured with, I think, a quad injury. He kind of pulled up between first and second on a double. So they've been doing a lot of this scoring without him, which is unfortunate. But we still like him as a guy who's got some interesting tools and could be a fourth outfielder or, on the strong side of a platoon down the road.
A strong side. I like the way the Strong Callahan.
Oh, yeah.
But it does work together with that. But a lot of people like Strong's swing, too. I like a big fan of his swing. And he started off kind of had a slow start to the year because I believe he got hit. And I think he was going through concussion protocol. So, but again, he has been, pun intended, coming on strong the last few weeks ago, and he's kind of settling a little bit. But he also shows really good speed out there too. You can see what the Tigers saw in him, and again, the Northeastern scouting department, whoever those guys are, bravo, because this is another example of. And you can see that in some of the other positional players they've identified, but. This is kind of, I think, to me, this marks like one of the first times they've gone really with an outfielder, right? They've been mainly infield in that area, right?
I think Mel Jerry was kind of from the same.
Oh yeah, it's Northeastern,
area,
right? That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, they I don't know. He's a kid that didn't play as much as a freshman, and he did put up good numbers as a sophomore and a junior, but just wasn't noticed because it's a Canisius, right? It's not you're not in a baseball hotbed, and so he had to go to. I think he was on the West Virginia Power of the MLB Draft League, maybe.
Yeah,
if that sounds right.
I think he was going to go to Kentucky. I believe that's what it was.
That's right. Yeah. And then they got him in the 7th round, and yeah, he's still young. He doesn't turn 22, I think, until August or so. So I mean, there's a lot to like there. There's good tools and some good baseball skills, and he's just got some of the. As you would expect for a player without a ton of high level experience, he's struggling a little bit against lefties. He is a left-handed hitter. He's struggling a little bit against breaking balls and changeups, but he's crushing fastballs. And like when I say struggle, there's just a little swing and miss there. He just hasn't seen a lot of them yet. But when he's putting the ball in play, he's doing a lot of damage. He has one of the highest fly ball rates in the system, and it's not like pop-ups. He's hitting the ball in the air and doing damage. So that's a good place to be.
Yeah, especially too because Lakeland is a very similar layout as far as comparatively speaking, dimension-wise. Like Comerica, where they have a deep center field, and so that could also you have to play that into consideration too. The rest of the FSL too is same thing. It's like a very pitcher friendly league. So 24 through 30, Chris, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to breeze through this a little bit only because two of those. I mean, we could talk about the two guys I want to talk about on this part right here. Tyler Matson's going through IL right now, but really I want to focus on Jude Warwick because we haven't really talked about him too much. And we've talked about Andrew Sears on the podcast portion of it. But Jude Warwick is intriguing in a sense, too, because I think if Bryce Rayner if Bryce Rayner was at West Michigan, I think Warwick would be in Lakeland right now. I really believe that. I think that's because, you have Montilla there. There's no room for him, and I think the FSL is a good start for him. But I think he would be fine. It doesn't seem like he's overmatched or anything.
No, I think there are a handful of guys there that, like, it's just one of those things. If they choose to move up a couple players from Lakeland to West Michigan, if everything gets kind of moved up in the system, they can backfill from the FCL fairly easily. Not that these guys are going to come in there and be gangbusters, but yeah, Warwick is a fun player. He was their 12th rounder last year, got a slightly higher bonus, but he's gotten off to a good start. He's not swinging and missing a ton. He's putting the ball in the gaps a lot. He hasn't hit a home run yet, but he's got a handful of doubles. He's stealing bases just about every time he gets on base. And he's playing solid defense at shortstop, second base. I think Scott Harris called him an up-the-middle defender. and I could see it. I mean, he's a lean, athletic guy. He could play second short or maybe even center field down the road in his left-handed swing, and just a fun player to see. We've seen some uh, impressive defensive performances from him too. Although we're watching on kind of a spyglass camera, but he's just a fun name that we started talking about a little bit last year, and just kind of seems to fit here in the back end of the 30. Jose Dixon, same idea. He's actually hit a couple home runs already, which is impressive because he didn't have any in the DSL last year. So he's growing into his power a little bit. He's not stealing much. I think maybe he might be a future second baseman, third baseman, but he's showing stuff for being an 18-year-old. Not bad. Tyler Madison has made 2 rehab appearances. The velocity's not back yet, but he looks generally like himself. Otherwise, the breaking ball's there, the changeup's there. So we'll just see him build up the arm strength. Andrew Sears, like you said, he's got a lot of strikeouts. He's been awesome in May. Good arm for a lefty, up to 95, 96 at times. Has a good sweeper. Working on the other pitches, working on not hitting so many people. I think he's already hit 7 or 8 batters, but a fun arm to keep an eye on. Yosmer Sanchez, pure reliever, throws in the mid 90s, upper 90s at times. Has a pretty nasty slider. He's been on the injured list twice this year, so I'm not really sure what's going to go on there. But that's worth touching on him. He was pitching in Erie a little bit. I think it's elbow soreness right now, and he's throwing bullpens though, so I don't think it's a surgery thing.
Well, thankful for that. And yeah, he was one of the few guys. He's the only one of the few guys in the system that can throw 100 at least consistently, and that's where I think if he got off to a good start, he could have been up at Toledo or even Detroit.
Yeah, what Dylan Smith has done this year could have been the Yosmer Sanchez story if he had been healthy and performing, right? There was room for that, but he's he was fine when he pitched. It just the command wasn't quite there, and obviously something was not feeling right. Carson Rucker was our one big dropper who stayed on the list. Like you can say that other people dropped off the list completely, and those are the biggest droppers. But Rucker was the guy we had, I think, at 20th. He dropped 10 spots. He just hasn't performed in low A Lakeland this year, and it's not surprising. I don't know if we were expecting him to go out and go crazy. He basically missed all of the last 2 seasons, so he's still getting used to playing pro ball. But he's batting like 170, high strikeouts, a lot of errors at third base. It just hasn't been great there. But when you watch him, he doesn't necessarily look completely overmatched. It just it's just a little bit off. I feel like he might end up having a solid second half of the year. Although he is on the IL right now. He's another guy who had kind of a strange injury where he was on second base and was running to third, and something funny happened, and he came out of the game, and now he's on the IL. So
yeah, that's unfortunate too, because that's the reason why I was kind of like, with this part of the list here, it is kind of strange. I'm trying to say how to say this politely. A fuddled mess, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair way to say that?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're in any system where you're in the 20s and 30s and stuff, it's a mix of kind of older guys who you think might have a chance to contribute in a small way, younger guys who look like they have a high ceiling but are a long way away, relievers, people with interesting tools. Like it's just this is choose your own adventure, pick your poison, whatever you float your boat area, right? Like this is the cliche prospect area.
I just realized, by the way, that as I'm typing this out, that is a top 40 because I can't number things correctly.
Yeah.
I just realized that it's our top well, it's technically the way I
39.
did it. Yeah, 39. Well,
yeah. I don't know. Somebody, their number didn't work out, but we'll mention Gabriel Reyes here just real quick. He was a guy we were really high on. He dropped. How far did he drop? He dropped 4 spots. I dropped him much more than that. I think you did too. So did Jerry. Mostly because he didn't even make. He was good in Lakeland last year, and we were excited about him. Thought he had a chance. We thought he would move up to West Michigan, but he didn't. Not only did he not move up to West Michigan, he didn't even come back to Lakeland. They sent him back to the Complex League, which is just not a great sign, right? Like it's a sign that either something got messed up in the offseason or they just don't think he has a ton of potential. And then he wasn't great early on in his early outings in Lakeland. He had his best outing so far of the year today, which I think was 4 innings and 6 strikeouts or something like that, no runs. So maybe he's getting it back a little bit, but it's, we're reacting to 2 months of performance, and his hasn't been great.
Yeah, from my understanding too, wasn't he? I think it's something. Maybe he was out of shape.
I mean, that's the only thing we could think of because he wasn't injured, right? So I don't know, but yeah. So he dropped down my list because it's a thin line, right? He's a guy that has some interesting stuff, but it's still low 90s fastball from the left side, and if you can't, I don't know, it's you're hoping that he was going to throw a little bit harder and move up a level, and he hasn't. So now he dropped out of my list, and snapshot in time. If he keeps pitching well, he'll move up again.
Yeah, there's always, like I said, there's always room for improvement. We've talked about this before. Guys have come in and out of this list all the time. I mean, Trey Cruz has made appearances on this list. There's numerous things that you can point out to and say and just what, like, the guys in the next part of our list too are a lot of new names to some people, and so
Yeah.
let me get to that here. And Paul Wilson was another guy, top 20. Now he fell off a little bit there.
Well, he didn't make our list last time. It was, which was odd. Again, it was, when we only had 3 people voting, if he missed 2 lists, then he didn't make it. And I don't think he made any of our lists because he was so bad last year. His velocity was like 90 and he wasn't throwing any strikes. And then we saw him briefly this year in Lakeland and it was better. He still wasn't great. The fastball command was iffy, and there were times when he would just miss by a lot. But what we did see was when he was throwing it in the zone, batters couldn't do much against it at all. And he was up to 95, 96, and he was flashing a plus slider. And it was like, okay, now we see why this guy's a prospect. And then he got injured, and he's out for the year with I think, elbow replacement surgery, like ligament replacement surgery. I don't know if he's actually had it or not, but so it's weird. It's unfortunate that he showed some signs, got injured, and then finally made our list, which doesn't seem fair. But Carlos Mendoza, we've talked about a ton on our podcast. Like, he doesn't fit as a traditional prospect, but he's just a good baseball player. He's a winning baseball player in the minors. He's always on base, either through hits or walks. He'll steal bases. He's not a great defender anywhere you put him, but you can move him around. I don't know if he's ever going to make the Tigers, but I feel like at some point, somewhere, he's going to be in the big leagues just because he can help your team win.
Yeah.
Massey, we haven't seen pitch yet. He's been injured and injured again, and he was their 4th rounder last year. Does that sound right? I think they're 4th rounder.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just kind of basing on that draft status, but he hasn't played yet, so he's down in the 30s. Now Lucas Ellisalt is a very fun case here, where you watch him. He struggled his first couple outings, but his last 3 or 4 have been excellent down in Lakeland, and he was their 13th rounder out of Chipola, which is a pretty highly regarded junior college down there, right? It's a baseball school.
And there's a former 2nd round Tiger draft pick.
Yeah, Ray Rivera, I think, went to Chipola. Yeah. But Ellisalt went there, pitched for a year, and you watch him, and like everything looks great. He's got 5 different pitches. They all move the way they're supposed to. He's got really good feel for spin. The changeup looks good. The fastball has ride. He's got a cutter, a slider, a curve. It's all there. He throws a lot of strikes for a kid who's not 21 yet. The only issue is that he just doesn't throw very hard. It's 90, 91, 92. And that extends to all the other pitches, right? Like the curveball is a little bit too slow, even though he spins it really well. The slider, but he is like 6'4", and his older brother is in pro baseball, and he throws 95. So you just kind of cross your fingers and hope that they can tease out a couple more ticks of velocity. And if that happens, then suddenly Lucas Ellisalt is like a top 10 prospect in the system, like top 15, like a potential mid-rotation starter, because everything else works. But it's probably not going to work if he's just living in the low 90s forever. So that's, I don't know. There's a lot of upside there, but you do have to worry that he just might never come because of, it's not there right now. Did Jim Jarvis make our list? I thought he fell out.
Yeah, I don't know why. Wait, did Jarvis fall? Like, maybe that's what it was then. Okay.
Jarvis fell out. That's why he's not.
Okay.
Jarvis got 3 votes. 31, 20, and 43, but he didn't get that all.
So it was okay. So I did have it right then. I did have the third. Okay, all right. I'm not. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, he would have been around this range had he gotten another vote, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And you know, we can talk about him real quick, even though he's not on the list. Is he's a strong defender, good ball player, makes contact, doesn't swing and miss a lot, doesn't have a whole lot of power, never seems to hit for very high average. Could be a solid utility guy down the road. RJ Pettit, we've talked about him before. Big, what's that?
I was gonna say Jarvis has one of the best song bat up songs. He has the "Do you believe in love?"
No, he comes to the plate to share.
Yeah.
All right, that works.
I can feel.
But yeah, I mean, he's the only. I think he's the only college player they took from the 2023 class that's in AA. If I'm not mistaken, I can't think of anybody else.
Wait, no. Oh, for the 2024 one class, you mean?
The 23 class, right? It was the class with Clark and McGonigal.
Soretti?
No, Soretti was
21. Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, okay, all right. It started blending in after a while. You're right.
Or maybe he was 22, but yeah, you know. Anyway, we're up to RJ Pettit. RJ Pettit is a quality reliever. We've known that for a while. He's been in AA for a while now. He's kind of lives in the mid 90s. At certain times in his career, he's gotten up to the higher, like 97, 98, maybe even higher. Yeah. He's got a pretty good changeup. I think that's his best secondary pitch. He's got a slider, and he's thrown a lot of strikes this year and is getting good results. So he made the back of the list as a potential relief option down the road. Again, that's another guy that you would think could potentially move up through the system. But and who was after that?
I'm sorry. That was
that's good. I got Hayden Minton. Hayden Minton just moved up from low A Lakeland to high A West Michigan as a 24-year-old. He spent all of last year in Lakeland, a college starter, and then he went back to Lakeland. Didn't seem like a great sign to me, but he improved, right? And one of the things that looked like is they moved him on the mound a little bit, because one of the big issues that last year was walking people, and then he stopped walking people this year. So huzzah! He's still like, the stuff isn't necessarily great. It's like 92, 94 with his fastball and a sinker, but he's got a really good curveball and a solid slider. And I think, you know, in his debut in high A, he pitched well through the first 3 innings, and then the second time around they got to him. And I think that's an indication, and just based on his stuff, I think he's got a chance as a reliever down the road. You know, might throw a little bit harder in shorter stints, and curveball might get a little firmer, and might have something there as a potential reliever.
And I think that's another development win too for the Tigers to identify something like that, because this is something where, again, will they have done that in the immediate past? No.
I think that it's not. He's probably a guy that they wouldn't have focused on getting better, right? They would have just thrown him out there, and you're a starter, and you're going to move up, and you know, every year until you stop getting results. And they figured something out and made him a little bit better, and now he could be useful down the road. Following Minton, we have Jack Penny, who was a draft pick from last year. He's on the injured list right now, but he's been another key figure in West Michigan's team all year. And he's one of those guys, he doesn't jump off the page for anything, really. He's just steady across the board, probably an average runner. He can drive the ball, but it's probably average power. The hit tool is probably fringy. Defense, I've seen him look good at second. He's played some third. He's played some short. I've also seen him not look great anywhere. And so I think it's just, a potential left-handed hitting utility guy down the road. Not all that different than Jim Jarvis, except he's a little bit bigger, a little stronger. So he may be able to hit for more power down the road.
And then the finish off the list here is Eduardo Valencia and Moises Rodriguez. And Valencia is just raking the ball in Erie, Chris. And, between him, you mentioned this stat earlier, between him and Tyrone, they've been one of the best catching duos in AA with power.
Yeah, and we've seen glimpses of Valencia in the past, but he's been a backup like his entire professional career outside of rookie ball. He's just always been kind of just a backup on all these minor league teams. And he's still kind of that now, but it's almost like a 50-50 timeshare with Lorenzo. And he's hitting. Hit his 7th home run today. So he's hitting like 280, 290, just a lot of offensive production. And I don't think he's necessarily a great defender. Like he's not, going to wow you with his catch and throw skills, but I think he's a solid receiver. And he's just somebody that it's kind of one of those surprise developmental stories where he may just be an ore catcher, and that might just be his role in life. But it wouldn't shock me if he finds his way to the big leagues at some point, or if he's kind of somebody's third catcher, if you will, the third catcher on a 40 man, even if he's not in the big leagues, just because catchers are in short supply, and if a catcher who can hit a little bit could have some value. So it's been an interesting kind of out of nowhere case for him, and I'm not 100% convinced that he's ever going to do anything. But that's why he's on the very back of the list.
Yeah, and that's okay. And like you can,
yeah.
I always think this. I think what makes their list unique to anybody else's is the value of backup catchers, and I think, and I say that because I think the organization favors that to a certain extent. I mean, it's either whether regardless if they're org guys or not. You look at like there's always been a case where there's a catcher that seemingly is low on the system, but they make the big league somehow. You know why? Because they're a good defender. If they can hit a little bit.
Yeah, and I think in Valencia's case, it's not like he just may be the kind of backup catcher who's more about getting you the occasional hit or hitting occasional home run. Maybe he's a lefty masher or something like that who can catch and call a decent game. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what goes on there. But it's been fun watching him perform so far this year. And the final guy on our list is another kind of out of nowhere pop up, Moises Rodriguez. I saw him a fair amount of times last year. It seemed like he was always pitching when the FCL feed came up, so I was able to see him. And he didn't feel particularly promising to me then. It was 95, 96 mile an hour fastball, but not much else. And this year he's throwing 96, 97, 98, 99. Like he's throwing upper 90s with sink, tons of ground balls. It's like a 75% ground ball rate. Yeah. And he's got a slider that works. I don't know if it's great on its own, but he throws so many sinkers that when he breaks out the slider, batters swing and miss a lot. And again, like this is a guy, it's a pure relief arm. He's just those two pitches, and really it's just mostly sinker. But he's a guy, when I mentioned Randall earlier, it's like Rodriguez, you throw really hard, you've got some feel for spin, you get a lot of ground balls, you may be able to improve at every step of the level because the defense behind you gets better. It's probably always going to be a kind of a ball and play specialist, but yeah, I know we always like to have somebody who's throwing really hard on the list, and that's what he's doing now. So it's kind of fun to have him on there.
Yeah, although the last two outings he's been rocked a little bit, but it's okay. Like it's
yeah.
No.
It's not always about just the numbers. Sometimes, in like I said with Randall, sometimes it's just about the stuff.
It was about
maybe
the numbers.
This is something you could do something with.
If it was about the numbers, Corey Lee would not be in the major leagues right now. The Cobra.
Oh, Chase Lee. Yeah.
Sorry, Corey,
yeah.
Chase, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's about what they're showing on the field. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching both of our first and second the breakdowns. Like I said, the Jackson Strong breakdown is also, you can watch that with like a 10-15 minute clip. Definitely take the time to do that and more. So our top 39 originally, like I said, I think it's been this long weekend of Tigers just absolutely scoring all weekend. So we were just so the Tigers this week between the affiliates really had a good week. So we had Erie down originally 5-1. They're 4-2. Regardless, though, the Tigers between the Giants and the series win against Kansas City finished a combined, was it 28? Thank you again for the donations. Thank you again for subscribing. We definitely appreciate it as we are marching towards the draft. So there's going to be some draft coverage coming up as well. We have a new breakdown to the Matt Seelinger breakdown done by Colin Ashley. He's got some breakdowns of some prospects, some college guys too as well. All coming out in the next week or two here at Tigers Minor League Report. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.